Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Kentucky, Mr. Comer, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all for being here today. This is a big issue in my district. I look at this rule, this ELD rule. This, in my opinion, is the equivalent of Dodd-Frank legislation on small community banks. This is what the same thing that's happening with our small truckers. Most of the small independent truckers in my district feel like there are two reasons this rule became is because the bureaucrats think it's a good idea that have never been in the trucking business, and the large trucking companies want it to have a further competitive advantage over the small guys. Whatever instance, that's not good for me. I'm going to give you an example of how this affects a huge industry in America, in Kentucky, and especially in my district, agriculture. In Kentucky, we're the largest livestock producing state east of the Mississippi. The further east you go, you still have a lot of cattle. If you look at the price of beef cattle, I'm just using this as an example. The further away from Congressman Blum's district, Congressman Marshall's district you get, the cheaper the price of cattle is. It can be the same type of cattle, the same weight, the same breed. The difference is the trucking cost to get it to the Midwest where the infrastructure is. When you transport livestock, it takes longer than 12 hours. And we have a lot of livestock trucking companies in my district that take cattle from the east to the Midwest to where the cattle finishing takes place and the cattle processing takes place. If you don't allow a waiver, if this rule isn't changed for the livestock industry, the price of cattle will be zero the further east of the Mississippi you get. Because if you have to stop and unload those cattle, you can't keep the cattle on the truck or any of the livestock on the truck because they'll get disease, you have shrinkage, they're going to lose weight, they could die. So you have to find a place to unload all those cattle. People aren't going to do that. That's industry is going to be gone. Small farmers that you have in the eastern part of the United States. So I know that the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration issued a 90-day waiver for the ELD rule for livestock haulers. That waiver is helpful in the short term, but it does nothing for the long term. So my question is, what is the best long-term solution to ensure the safety on our roadways for livestock and to continue the viability of the big livestock industry we have, and not just in my district in Kentucky, but throughout the eastern part of the United States?
Congressman, I'm going to answer the same way I just did to Congressman Evans. And all four testimonies had the same common element to them, that one size doesn't fit all. There's got to be a greater examination to give relief to situations like what you just described.
I think an important point to bring out is whenever my personal circumstance in the 33 years that I've been in business is that we are handed regulation and then are told deal with it.
Right.
And dealing with it tends to, you make mistakes. You're trying to comply. You're trying to figure out how to comply. And the end result is, however, we're inspecting you and you didn't do steps 3, 4, and 5 correctly. You did one great, your heart was in the right place, your mind was in the right place, but you just didn't get the job done. Therefore, here's $2,500 fine and try to do better next time.
From my standpoint, even as just a consumer, and I actually broke into the industry hauling cattle.
Good. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes, absolutely. I didn't quite go the distance that you're talking, but still, nonetheless, you have to, you're talking about livestock here. It's not a load of freight.
Right.
So, but as a consumer, you're talking about dealing with the food chain of our country. And the fact that we have such a great, efficient transportation system enables food to be delivered, all kinds of goods to be delivered at a low cost to the consumers. And if I might throw this in also, is that, a lot of people talk about, the funding of our highways and stuff today, and not really want to raise fuel taxes, and everybody benefits from that. whether you never get out and drive on the highways, but if you're going to have stuff delivered from Amazon or whoever it is, and that's a big thing right now, the
Right.
shopping season. So that all plays into that. So that's something that we need to consider.
Thank you. The gentleman's time has
Thank you.
expired.